Ladies and gentlemen, life is a battleground, and the greatest war you will ever fight is the one within your own mind. The world is chaotic, unpredictable, and often merciless, but within that chaos lies opportunity, an opportunity to shape yourself into something formidable, something resilient, something unstoppable. You see, people love to talk about limitations. They tell you what you can't do, what's too difficult, what's impossible. But let me tell you something, your mind is the single greatest weapon you have. It is the fortress from which all your victories or defeats emerge. If you do not train it, if you do not discipline it, then you leave yourself vulnerable, weak, directionless, and at the mercy of the world. But if you do train it, if you harness the power of focus, resilience, and discipline, then there is nothing that can stand in your way. Not fear, not failure. Not even the obstacles that seem insurmountable, because the person who has mastered their mind is the person who cannot be broken. And that, my friends, is what we're here to talk about today. How to train your mind so that nothing, no setback, no challenge, no voice of doubt can stop you. So let's begin. The mind is a battlefield, and every thought that enters it has the potential to shape your reality. Most people believe they are in control of their thoughts, but in truth, the vast majority allow their thoughts to control them. They react instead of act. They drift instead of direct. And in doing so, they surrender their greatest asset, the ability to choose how they think, perceive, and respond to the world around them. Training your mind begins with disciplining your thoughts, which is no easy task. The brain is wired for survival, not success, and left unchecked, it will default to fear, doubt, and negativity. And this is why so many people get trapped in cycles of self-sabotage. They let their thoughts dictate their actions, rather than mastering their thoughts to align with their goals. Every great achievement, every act of resilience begins with a person who has learned to override the automatic self-defeating narratives that the untrained mind clings to. If you want to master your mind, you must become aware of your inner dialogue. Most people don't even realize the thoughts that run through their heads on a daily basis. They assume their emotions and reactions are simply who they are, rather than recognizing them as the byproducts of unchecked mental patterns. But the truth is, the stories you tell yourself shape your identity, and your identity shapes your actions. If you believe you are weak, you will act weak. If you tell yourself you can't do something, you won't. But if you take control of that voice, if you systematically train it to serve you rather than limit you, then you will find yourself able to endure and achieve things you once thought impossible. The first step to disciplining your thoughts is to challenge them. Most people accept their thoughts as truth without question. If they feel fear, they assume there is something to fear. If they feel doubt, they assume they are incapable. But emotions are not facts. They are responses, habitual responses that have been ingrained over years of conditioning. Just because a thought arises does not mean it is real. And just because you feel something does not mean you should obey it. The disciplined mind learns to separate thought from reality, fear from fact, and impulse from intention. To do this, you must develop the habit of self-awareness. Pay attention to the thoughts that dominate your mind. Are they empowering or limiting? Do they push you forward or hold you back? If you constantly tell yourself that you are not good enough, that you will fail, or that you are not capable, your brain will accept these statements as truth, and your actions will reflect them. But if you make the conscious effort to replace those thoughts with disciplined, rational, and constructive alternatives, you will begin to see a shift in your behavior, your confidence, and ultimately, your results. Training the mind is not about ignoring reality or pretending that obstacles don't exist. It's about choosing a response that serves you rather than one that weakens you. It's about replacing self-doubt with self-discipline, fear with focus, and chaos with clarity. And this requires repetition. Just like training a muscle, training the mind is a daily process. You must practice directing your thoughts, catching negative patterns, and replacing them with ones that align with the person you want to become. Another critical aspect of disciplining your mind is developing the ability to focus. In today's world, distraction is the greatest enemy of progress. The average person is bombarded with information, entertainment, and noise at all hours of the day, and the result is a scattered, unfocused mind. But the people who achieve greatness are the ones who can direct their attention with laser-like precision. They do not allow themselves to be pulled in 1,000 directions. They train their minds to prioritize, to cut out the unnecessary, and to focus entirely on the task at hand. This level of mental discipline is what separates the extraordinary from the mediocre. Your ability to focus is directly tied to your ability to control your emotions. Most people allow their emotions to dictate their actions. If they feel tired, they give up. If they feel unmotivated, they procrastinate. But a disciplined mind operates independently of emotion. It does what needs to be done, whether it feels like it or not. It recognizes that emotions are temporary, fleeting, and often deceptive. The person who masters their mind does not wait for the right mood to take action. They act regardless of mood, knowing that action itself is what shapes their state of mind, not the other way around. A disciplined mind is also a resilient mind. Life will test you. It will throw obstacles in your path, challenge your resolve, and force you to confront discomfort. Those who have not trained their minds will crumble under pressure, giving in to frustration, self-pity, or avoidance. But those who have disciplined their thoughts will adapt, push through, and emerge stronger. This is because mental discipline is the foundation of resilience. It is the ability to stay calm in chaos, to remain steady in uncertainty, and to push forward even when every part of you wants to quit. This level of mental toughness is not something you are born with. It is something you develop through practice, through struggle, through a relentless commitment to training your mind every single day. The thoughts you choose to entertain, the words you allow yourself to repeat, and the beliefs you reinforce will ultimately determine your success or failure. A weak mind will always find an excuse. A strong mind will always find a way. Life is not a straight path. It is not orderly, predictable, or designed for your convenience. Instead, it is filled with uncertainty, obstacles, and moments that will test your limits. People often hope for a life free of struggle, but that is not how reality works. Chaos is inevitable. It exists in the world, in your relationships, in your career, and most importantly, within your own mind. Those who attempt to avoid it, who seek comfort at all costs, who retreat at the first sign of disorder, ultimately set themselves up for failure. The truth is that chaos and struggle are not things to be feared or avoided. They are essential. They are the raw materials from which growth is forged. Struggle is the proving ground of strength. It is in hardship that people discover what they are truly capable of. No one grows in comfort because comfort breeds complacency. A life free of challenge produces weakness, and weakness leads to destruction. The mind, like the body, must be exposed to resistance in order to grow stronger. Just as muscles must be strained and pushed to their limits in order to develop, the mind must be tested by adversity. Those who avoid struggle at all costs deny themselves the opportunity to develop resilience. They remain fragile, easily broken by the slightest inconvenience, controlled by their fears rather than standing above them. To embrace chaos and struggle is to accept reality for what it is. Many people live in denial, hoping that things will get easier, that difficulties will disappear, that somehow they will be able to move forward without pain. This is an illusion. Challenges will come, whether you prepare for them or not. Life does not ask for permission before it throws you into the fire. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not the absence of struggle, but how they respond to it. Those who fear hardship will be consumed by it, but those who train themselves to endure and adapt will become unstoppable. The mind instinctively resists discomfort. It seeks the path of least resistance, avoiding anything that feels painful or overwhelming. But pain is not the enemy. Fear of pain is. The person who avoids difficult situations, who backs away from responsibility, who hides from uncertainty only weakens themselves. Every time you shrink back from a challenge, you reinforce the belief that you are incapable of handling it. You teach your mind to seek escape rather than confrontation, and in doing so, you give away your power. The only way to overcome this is to deliberately expose yourself to struggle. Just as an athlete trains by lifting heavier and heavier weights, you must train your mind by leaning into discomfort. Seek challenges that force you to grow. Pursue goals that demand more from you than you currently believe you are capable of. Push yourself into situations that require courage, persistence, and resilience. The more you engage with struggle, the more you condition your mind to handle it. Over time, what once seemed overwhelming will become manageable, and what once seemed impossible will become achievable. People often misunderstand chaos, believing it to be something that only brings destruction. But chaos is also the birthplace of transformation. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every great leap forward has come from those who were willing to step into the unknown, to embrace uncertainty, and to confront the unpredictable nature of reality. The greatest minds, the strongest individuals, and the most successful people in history did not achieve their greatness by avoiding struggle. They faced it head on. They endured the failures, the setbacks, the moments of doubt, and they emerged stronger because of it. Adversity is the ultimate teacher. It reveals weaknesses, exposes blind spots, and forces people to confront the aspects of themselves that need to be strengthened. A person who has never struggled does not truly know themselves. They do not know how they will react when life turns against them. They have not been tested, and because of that, they lack the depth of character that only hardship can forge. It is in the midst of difficulty that true strength is developed. There is a reason why people admire those who have overcome great obstacles. It is because struggle refines individuals in a way that nothing else can. When you see someone who is disciplined, composed, and unwavering in the face of adversity, you are witnessing the result of years of hardship. That kind of strength is not inherited. It is built. It is earned through suffering, through persistence, through the relentless decision to keep moving forward despite the pain. Most people spend their lives trying to create a sense of order, trying to structure their environment in a way that minimizes difficulty. But no amount of planning can eliminate uncertainty. No level of control can prevent the inevitable chaos that life will throw your way. The only solution is to become the kind of person who thrives in disorder, who sees struggle not as a roadblock, but as an opportunity. The world does not adapt to you. You must adapt to the world. And that begins with your mindset, with the way you choose to see difficulty, and with your willingness to embrace it rather than flee from it. Your life is the sum of your habits. Every action you take, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you will become. Most people believe that success or failure is determined by major events, one big decision, one defining moment. But in reality, it is built through the seemingly insignificant choices made every single day. What you do consistently matters far more than what you do occasionally. The habits you cultivate shape your identity, and your identity determines the course of your life. Most people live reactively. They wake up each day without a clear structure, without intentionality, and they allow their actions to be dictated by impulse rather than purpose. They act based on how they feel in the moment rather than on a disciplined system that moves them toward their goals. This is why so many struggle to make progress. They rely on motivation, which is fleeting, instead of structure, which is reliable. Motivation comes and goes, but habits, once ingrained, operate automatically. When your habits align with your ambitions, progress becomes inevitable. To master your habits, you must first become aware of them. Many people engage in self-destructive behaviors without realizing it. They wake up and immediately reach for their phone, flooding their minds with distractions. They procrastinate, make excuses, and repeat cycles of avoidance, all while wondering why they are not achieving their goals. Small negative habits compound over time. The person who skips the gym once may not notice a difference, but the person who consistently avoids physical activity will, over months and years, suffer the consequences. The same is true for every other area of life. Poor financial habits lead to financial ruin. See it. Poor learning habits lead to stagnation. Poor relationship habits lead to disconnection and loneliness. Every small action contributes to a larger outcome, whether people recognize it or not. Breaking free from destructive habits requires intentional effort. The brain resists change because it prefers efficiency. It seeks to conserve energy by repeating familiar patterns, even if those patterns are harmful. This is why people struggle to break bad habits. They are wired into their neural pathways, reinforced through years of repetition. But the same principle that cements bad habits can be used to build good ones. The key is repetition. The more you engage in a new behavior, the stronger the neural connections become, until eventually the action becomes second nature. A powerful way to reshape habits is to design your environment for success. Most people underestimate the influence of their surroundings. They assume that willpower alone is enough to create change, but willpower is unreliable. The environment you place yourself in determines much of your behavior. If your workspace is cluttered and full of distractions, focus becomes difficult. If your kitchen is filled with unhealthy food, poor eating habits become automatic. If your social circle is made up of unmotivated people, their mindset will inevitably influence yours. Restructuring your environment to remove obstacles and reinforce positive behaviors makes success far more likely. Another essential aspect of mastering habits is starting small. Many people fail to build good habits because they aim too high, too quickly. They try to change everything at once, and when they inevitably falter, they abandon the process altogether. True change comes from small, consistent improvements. A person who reads 1 page a day will, over time, develop the habit of reading. A person who does 5 push-ups daily will eventually become stronger and more disciplined. These small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but their impact compounds over time. People often underestimate the power of identity and habit formation. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline, you will act in ways that reinforce that identity. But if you shift your identity, if you begin to see yourself as someone who is consistent, someone who follows through, someone who is committed, your actions will follow suit. The key to long-term success is to align your habits with the identity you wish to embody. Instead of focusing on outcomes, focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally achieves those outcomes. The goal is not just to run a marathon, it is to become a runner. The goal is not just to write a book, it is to become a writer. The habits you build should reinforce the identity you want to adopt. Mastering habits also requires tracking progress. What gets measured gets improved. If you are not tracking your behaviors, you are leaving progress to chance. Keeping a record of your actions forces accountability and provides a clear picture of where you are excelling and where you need improvement. Many people abandon their goals because they do not see immediate results, but tracking small wins helps maintain momentum. Progress is not always visible in the short term, but when you look back over months or years, the impact of consistent action becomes undeniable. Failure is an inevitable part of the process. No one maintains perfect habits all the time. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not the absence of failure, but the response to it. People who build strong habits do not let one mistake turn into a downward spiral. They recognize setbacks for what they are, temporary lapses, not permanent defeats. The key is to never allow 2 failures in a row. If you miss one day at the gym, go the next day. If you break your diet, get back on track with the next meal. The ability to recover quickly is what separates those who make lasting changes from those who give up at the first sign of difficulty. The mind craves consistency. It finds comfort in routine. This is why people who develop strong habits experience less mental resistance over time. What once required effort becomes effortless. What once felt unnatural becomes second nature. This is the true power of habits. They remove the need for constant decision making. Instead of relying on willpower, success becomes automatic. The world is full of people who blame their circumstances for their failures. They point to their upbringing, their environment, their past mistakes, and external forces as the reason they are not where they want to be. It is easier to believe that life is unfair than to accept the harsh truth that the only thing standing in the way of success is the person staring back in the mirror. Taking responsibility is difficult because it forces an individual to confront their own shortcomings, but it is also the most liberating thing a person can do. When you take full ownership of your life, you take back your power. You stop waiting for things to change and start becoming the person who makes things change. People who embrace a victim mentality see life as something that happens to them, that they believe their challenges are unique, that they have been dealt an impossible hand, and that success is reserved for those who had better opportunities. They look for validation in their suffering rather than searching for ways to overcome it. But the truth is, struggle is universal. Everyone faces obstacles, failures, and setbacks. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not the absence of hardship, but the refusal to let hardship define them. The mind is powerful, and the beliefs you hold shape your reality. If you convince yourself that you are powerless, you will act in ways that reinforce that belief. You will hesitate, make excuses, and retreat at the first sign of difficulty. But if you shift your mindset and take full ownership of your circumstances, you will start to see opportunities where others see barriers. You will stop wasting energy complaining about what is out of your control and start focusing on what is within your control. This is the mindset of winners. People who refuse to let their past dictate their future. Taking responsibility does not mean ignoring the challenges you have faced. Some people do start with more advantages than others. Some people do experience unfair circumstances. But dwelling on what is unfair does not change anything. Complaining about the past does not move you forward. The only thing that creates progress is action. And action is only possible when you stop blaming external forces and start looking inward. The moment you take responsibility for everything in your life, good or bad, is the moment you regain control. Many people avoid responsibility because it is uncomfortable. It is much easier to believe that external factors are to blame for lack of progress than to admit that their own choices have led them to where they are. But discomfort is the price of growth. The person who avoids responsibility in an attempt to protect their ego only ensures their own stagnation. Growth requires brutal honesty. It requires looking at yourself objectively, recognizing the patterns that have held you back, and committing to change. This is not easy, but it is necessary. Excuses are seductive. They offer a temporary sense of relief by shifting blame elsewhere, but they also reinforce weakness. The more you justify an action, the weaker your resolve becomes. The more you convince yourself that success is out of your hands, the more you rob yourself of the opportunity to create it. Every time you make an excuse, you strengthen the belief that you are powerless. And the more powerless you feel, the less likely you are to take the actions necessary to improve your life. People who take responsibility for their lives operate differently. They do not waste time complaining. They do not indulge in self-pity. They do not wait for circumstances to improve before taking action. They act first, knowing that progress is built through effort, not luck. They take ownership of their decisions, their habits, and their mindset. When they fail, they do not blame others. They analyze their mistakes, adjust, and move forward. This is why they succeed where others falter. They refuse to see themselves as victims. Personal accountability is not just about career success or financial achievement. It applies to every area of life. Relationships, health, and personal growth all depend on the ability to take responsibility. A person who blames others for their failed relationships will never develop the self-awareness needed to improve them. A person who blames genetics or external factors for their poor health will never adopt the habits necessary to change. The pattern is always the same. Those who avoid responsibility remain stuck, while those who embrace it take control of their destiny. There is a direct link between responsibility and resilience. People who take ownership of their lives develop an inner strength that allows them to endure hardship. When things go wrong, they do not crumble. They do not look for someone to blame. They ask themselves, what can I do about this? This mindset creates a sense of control, even in the most difficult situations. Instead of being at the mercy of circumstances, they become the kind of person who adapts, problem solves, and overcomes. Most people spend their lives waiting for the right opportunity, the right conditions, or the right moment to take action. But those who succeed do not wait. They act. They understand that there will never be a perfect time. They know that nothing will change until they make the decision to change it. They take full responsibility for their progress, knowing that every day is a chance to improve. They understand that life is not about fairness or luck. It is about what they are willing to do with the time and opportunities they have. Discipline is the foundation of success. It is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. Most people rely on motivation, believing that they need to feel inspired before they can take action. But motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes, dictated by mood, circumstances, and external factors. Discipline, on the other hand, is reliable. It does not waver based on emotions. It is a commitment to consistency, a refusal to be controlled by temporary feelings. Those who achieve greatness are not the ones who wait for motivation. They are the ones who act despite its absence. The human mind is wired to seek comfort. It avoids pain, resists effort, and gravitates toward the path of least resistance. This is why so many struggle to maintain good habits. The temptation to procrastinate, to indulge in distractions, to choose ease over effort is constant. Discipline is what separates those who give in to these temptations from those who rise above them. It is not about suppressing emotions, but about overriding them. It is about recognizing that feelings are temporary, but the consequences of inaction are permanent. Building discipline starts with small daily choices. People often assume that discipline is about making grand sacrifices or displaying extreme self-control in the face of overwhelming temptation. But in reality, it is about mastering the mundane. It is about waking up when the alarm rings instead of hitting snooze. It is about showing up to the gym, even on days when energy is low. It is about doing the work day in and day out, regardless of how you feel. Success is not built in a single moment of willpower. It's built through thousands of small decisions repeated consistently over time. The greatest enemy of discipline is the mind's ability to rationalize. It will always find excuses, reasons to delay, justifications for inaction. It will tell you that skipping one workout does not matter, that indulging in one bad habit will not make a difference, that resting today is necessary. These excuses may seem harmless in the moment, but they are the seeds of failure. The problem is not the single missed action. It is the pattern that develops when excuses become habits. Every time you give in to an excuse, you reinforce the idea that it is acceptable. Over time, this weakens self-control and erodes discipline. To develop unshakable discipline, you must set clear rules for yourself. Vague intentions lead to inconsistent actions. If you tell yourself that you will work hard when you have time, you are leaving room for excuses. But if you commit to a structured schedule, if you decide in advance that certain behaviors are non-negotiable, you remove the need for constant decision-making. This is why the most successful people operate on routines. They do not waste energy debating whether they will take action. They have already decided that they will. One of the most powerful tools for building discipline is embracing discomfort. People who struggle with consistency often do so because they avoid things that feel difficult. But discomfort is not a sign to stop. It is a sign of growth. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the more resilient you become. This applies to every area of life. The person who pushes through exhaustion in training builds physical endurance. The person who forces themselves to focus despite distraction strengthens mental discipline. The person who faces difficult conversations rather than avoiding them develops emotional strength. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the path to mastery. Discipline also requires patience. Many people quit before they see results because they expect immediate gratification. They go to the gym for a week and see no change, so they give up. They start a new skill, struggle in the beginning, and assume they are not talented enough. This short-term mindset is what keeps people stuck. Progress is often invisible in the early stages. The work you put in today may not yield noticeable results for weeks, months, or even years, but discipline is about trusting the process. It is about showing up day after day, even when there is no immediate reward. It is about understanding that success is built through accumulation, through consistency, through relentless persistence. Many believe that discipline is restrictive, that it limits freedom by imposing rigid rules. But in reality, discipline is the ultimate form of freedom. A person without discipline is controlled by impulses, constantly pulled in different directions by fleeting desires. They struggle to focus, to follow through, to achieve what they truly want. A person with discipline, on the other hand, is in control. They make deliberate choices rather than being ruled by emotions. They create their own destiny rather than being at the mercy of circumstances. The people who accomplish the most in life are not necessarily the most talented or the most intelligent. They are the ones who have mastered the art of showing up. They are the ones who do the work, even on days when they don't feel like it. They understand that greatness is not about occasional bursts of effort, but about sustained commitment over time. They do not allow emotions to dictate their actions. They understand that self-discipline is the key to unlocking their full potential. The mind is the most powerful tool a person possesses, yet most people never learn how to use it to its full potential. They let their thoughts run unchecked, allowing negativity, doubt, and fear to dictate their actions. But the mind is not meant to be a chaotic battlefield of conflicting emotions and uncertainties, meant to be trained, sharpened, and disciplined, just like the body. Those who master their minds, master their lives. Those who let their minds control them remain trapped in cycles of self-doubt, hesitation, and mediocrity. Most people underestimate the extent to which their thoughts shape their reality. Every action begins as a thought. Every decision, every habit, every success or failure originates in the mind. A person who believes they are capable will act in ways that reinforce that belief. They will take risks, push through challenges, and persist where others give up. Conversely, a person who believes they are not good enough will sabotage themselves at every turn. They will hesitate, find excuses, and retreat at the first sign of adversity. The mind creates self-fulfilling prophecies, reinforcing whatever it is conditioned to believe. One of the greatest obstacles people face is their inner dialogue. Many are unaware of how destructive their self-talk can be. They tell themselves they are not smart enough, not strong enough, not lucky enough. They focus on their limitations rather than their potential, but thoughts are not harmless. They have consequences. The words repeated in the mind shape identity and behavior. A person who constantly tells themselves they are weak will act in ways that reinforce weakness. A person who tells themselves they are resilient will push through hardship. Training the mind starts with training the way one speaks to themselves. The negative thoughts must be challenged, restructured, and replaced with thoughts that empower rather than destroy. Another key aspect of mental training is learning to control focus. The modern world is filled with distractions, each one pulling attention away from what truly matters. Most people go through life in a state of mental chaos, constantly shifting from one distraction to the next, never fully present, never fully engaged. Focus is not something that just happens. It must be cultivated. It requires discipline to direct attention toward what is important and to eliminate what is not. Those who train their minds to focus have an advantage in every area of life. They learn faster, work more efficiently, and make better decisions. They are not at the mercy of every notification, every impulse, every fleeting thought. They take control of their attention and, by extension, their destiny. Mental toughness is another crucial aspect of training the mind. Life is unpredictable. Challenges, failures, and setbacks are inevitable. The difference between those who succeed and those who do not is not the absence of hardship, but the ability to endure and adapt. Mentally weak individuals crumble under pressure. They allow fear, stress, and doubt to consume them. Mentally strong individuals, on the other hand, face adversity head on. They do not break under stress. They become stronger because of it. They understand that difficulty is not an excuse to quit, but an opportunity to grow. One of the most effective ways to build mental toughness is to expose the mind to discomfort. People who only operate within their comfort zones remain fragile. They avoid challenges and, as a result, they never develop resilience. But those who deliberately seek out difficult situations, who push their limits, who embrace struggle, become unbreakable. The mind, like a muscle, grows stronger when it is tested. Those who challenge themselves consistently develop an unshakable confidence in their ability to overcome obstacles. Emotion control is another essential skill in mastering the mind. Many people allow their emotions to dictate their action. They react impulsively, making decisions based on fleeting feelings rather than rational thought. But emotions, while valuable, are not always reliable guides. Fear often distorts reality, making challenges seem larger than they are. Anger clouds judgment, leading to reckless decisions. Impatience pushes people to quit before they reach their goals. Those who master their minds learn to recognize their emotions without being controlled by them. They acknowledge fear, but do not let it stop them. They experience frustration, but do not let it dictate their actions. They train themselves to respond rather than react, making deliberate choices rather than being ruled by momentary feelings. The ability to visualize success is another powerful tool for training the mind. The subconscious does not distinguish between real experiences and vividly imagined ones. Athletes, performers, and high achievers understand this. They use visualization to prepare their minds for victory. They see themselves succeeding before they ever step onto the field, the stage, or the battlefield. This mental rehearsal conditions the mind for success, building confidence and reducing fear. People who use visualization effectively train their minds to expect success, and in doing so, they create the conditions necessary for controlling the mind. Also means guarding it against negativity. The world is full of influences that shape thought patterns, often without people realizing it. Negative environments, toxic relationships, and constant exposure to fear-driven media can erode mental strength over time. Just as the body is affected by the food it consumes, the mind is affected by the information it absorbs. Training the mind requires intentionality, choosing what to focus on, what to listen to, and what to ignore. Those who surround themselves with negativity will find it hard to think positively. Those who feed their minds with knowledge, inspiration, and constructive challenges will develop a mindset that fuels success. The process of mastering the mind is not easy. It requires daily effort, deliberate practice, and an unrelenting commitment to growth. It is not something that happens overnight, but rather something that is built over time through repetition, through discipline, through an unwillingness to settle for mediocrity. Most people never reach their full potential because they never train the one thing that controls everything else, their mind. Those who do, however, unlock a level of power, resilience, and clarity that sets them apart. They move through life with confidence, undeterred by challenges, unshaken by failure, unstoppable in their pursuit of greatness.